and welcome to Organize Your Life. We're going to talk about emotional, mental, physical, and energetic organizing. And I've got Tina here with me. We're excited to be with you today and share about this process. We'll do a brief introduction. We'll talk a little bit about what we're going to go over. So I'm Emily, and I'm certified to teach yoga as well as an Ayurveda counselor and life coach. Ultimately, I'm self-actualist. So I like to do things for mutual benefit with others and also live my best life and help you do the same. I started out in yoga that helped me expand into what is more about life and peace in the world. And I'll let Tina, if you want to do a quick introduction or as long as you like.
Hi, I'm Tina Curtis. I own Courtesy Organizing and professional organizer. Moved to the Illinois Valley in 2016, but I've been an organizer and had my own company since 2010. My background is emergency medicine and surgery, and I've always helped people in life transitions, seeing them at their sometimes their worst, trying to get them healthy and back into their homes if possible. And I'm here to see what Emily I could do to help you today.
So we're going to cover a little bit on physical organizing, mental, emotional, and energetic. And Tina does a lot of organizing for folks, and she's got a lot of good tips to share with us today. And then when we get into more of the energetic, it definitely ties in with yoga and Ayurveda, as well as what I help people do with coaching. So let's dive in. On the physical level, and I'll let Tina add more here because this is a lot of what she helps individuals with. It's,
So the
go ahead.
physical organizing, we're going to talk about whole, we're going to talk about all of the things in physical organizing. Uh, a lot of it is processes. Um, like with anything, everything needs a home. If something doesn't have a home, it floats around, and that causes some of the distraction and chaos that comes with being disorganized, or what we call chronic disorganization. If everything has a defined place, it's easier to sweep at certain times during the day or at the end of the day and return items to the proper place. If it no longer serves you, there's a process for physically letting go. And then we talk about the emotional side of letting go. We'll talk more about that in a later slide.
So all of that has to do with the physical, and we do that with the body as well. And that gets us into more of what the mind. So when we're working through the mental organizing, we talk a little bit about what's coming up, what feelings are coming up internally, what's important to us, and where we send our energies and what we're focusing on. When we're focusing on what we worry about or what we're anxious about, that's where the energy is going rather than the good results and focusing on that. That doesn't mean that we don't evaluate what potential outcomes are, but we think about this in a way that our focus is where our energy is going. And if our energy is going to that, that's what we're spending our time on. We want to spend our time on what's important. So part of our mental organizing can be through meditation or journaling or lists. When we meditate, we open up the mind to relax and go through what's coming up, what feelings are in the body, and what feelings are coming up that we might not process, something, what are we thinking about, and what do we want to do with that? Then we can journal if there's something that's occupying our mind or we like to imagine or vision what's coming up in the future. Journaling is a great way. And lists keep us organized. So it allows us to spend just a little bit of time here and there on what's important to us so we can refocus and keep the focus on what's important to us. Do you want to talk a little bit about the clutter chaos process?
Yeah, so this little graphic at the bottom is something I created with the help of a friend. Clutter creates chaos. Chaos creates anxiety, and anxiety causes you to shut down. This is a known through through several studies, mostly through the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. And I created this visual, this little graphic, so you can say, if there's clutter, whether it's clutter in your mind, clutter in your relationship, clutter on your desktop, clutter in your email, all that creates a certain amount of chaos, and that chaos builds slowly in your gut, that anxiety, and then that anxiety causes people to shut down. Fear causes you to react, anxiety causes you to shut down. And the reason meditation, journaling, and listening are so important is because that's where the breaks come. If you have clutter and you say, okay, what is my clutter from? Is it physical clutter? How can I reduce that? That breaks it. If I'm in a clutter phase and I'm in a lot of chaos, the meditation helps you bring yourself back to center, and then you can go back to either journaling or listing or start making some progress. The idea is to break it before we get to anxiety, because anxiety, um, the next step is shutting down. Shutting down then causes spiraling. Then we have, instead of situational disorganization, we now have chronic disorganization. And it's harder to break that pattern. So this is
And
a
it's,
great visual.
yeah, yeah, it's a great visual. And it's important too because the cost of the anxiety or the clutter, the chaos, affects our sleep. It affects our physical capability to find in the refrigerator the healthy food, right? Rather than going to the cupboard and saying, oh, it's easy, I can grab these crackers or I can eat these chips, right? And so it affects the capability for our overall life and our health, our well-being as well. And that's part of what's important about recognizing the physical clutter and how that affects our mental health and also then gets into those other parts of our well-being beyond. So having some tools for the physical and having some tools for the mental allow us to get through that a little bit. Are there any stories or examples of where this might have occurred in some of the organizing or
Yeah, I have a really interesting kind of a little story. So it's kind of um, it's not uncommon for people who get into situational disorganization, could be from an injury or an accident, and things just, you can't move around. You break a leg and you're on crutches, you can't move around, and things get really cluttered. And then as you get better, you just, it takes a while to recover, and you get tired more easily, and things just don't get done. And part of it is we don't know when to ask for help, who to ask for help without fear of judgment. And, when you need help, you have to have a set of resources. So, you've got this clutter, and you're not feeling the most energetic, and you're recovering, which takes a lot of physical and emotional energy, and you're afraid that anxiety of being judged makes you not reach out for the help that you need. Now you're doing nothing. Now you're kind of spiraling. So the time to ask for help is when resources are most readily available, right after you have an injury or an illness or an accident. Set up processes or ask people for help. Just somebody to come in and help you clean once a week, or somebody to bring you a meal once a week, or somebody to take you out of the house so you don't feel so uncomfortable. Sometimes having the forethought of saying, yes, I've had this accident. People are saying, what can I do to help? Reach out to people that you trust and say, here's what I believe I'm going to need. I'm going to need help, you know, keeping the cat litter box clean, and somebody needs to go through my refrigerator, and can somebody help me put away my groceries? Yes, you might be able to get them delivered, but you still need to put them away. Somebody to help with the laundry. That's a simple thing. The point is that literally pile up. So sometimes getting past the anxiety of being open and being vulnerable and asking for help when people are offering help. And then if they're not offering help, seeking out people who have a giving nature. And that's sometimes a little harder, and you might have to go through some family or friends or associates for resources. Um, but self-care means knowing when to ask for help, and putting yourself out there, being just a little vulnerable to get past this, so you don't get into the cycle of anxiety and doing.
I love that. I mean, that's so my sister before she had her first baby, filled the freezer with some different foods and prepared, we have these methods in our culture and our life of having a baby shower where people bring some extra diapers.
Mm.
They know that they're going to go fast. Um, a friend had some surgery, and before the surgery, it was okay. Is there anyone that can help drive me to my appointment? And so those are also ways of preparing for the mental and then preventing the physical, right?
Correct.
Especially if there's something, you can put it in the freezer. Sometimes those are things that we don't keep the containers and things like that. We might still want to be sustainable, right? But knowing that in advance too helps to, for those things we can prepare for to
Correct.
work through it. Yeah, it's a great story. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about emotional organizing. And this is important for the idea of the issues in the tissue. So we might have a back pain, we might have, something going on in our foot or our shoulder. Understanding where that's coming from can affect us mentally. But when we're emotionally going through something, it might be where we feel sad and it's hard to understand what to do with that. Or we might feel despair or grief in different ways. So when we can figure out where the feeling is and where it's occurring in the body, we're able to better move that through the body. Sometimes when our shoulders hurt or our neck gets tense, we might get a headache, which is a tension headache, sometimes from that. Sometimes it can be migraines, other things. But those are times of where it's like, oh, okay, what stress are we holding on to? Are we doing too many things? And how can we organize and work through that? There is a cost to holding on to each of those emotions rather than processing them. Sometimes that's a fear. It's a fear of, oh, you know, okay, if I don't do this, what's going to happen? Or if I'm not able to make it to this event or that event, what's going to happen? Or is it okay to rest instead of continuing to do all the things and then getting further and further behind along the way because our sleep affects our well-being. And there might also then be neglect. So, okay, I'm instead of cooking my food and having a great week of meals planned, or maybe I'm eating and I'm traveling and, okay, it's okay to skip getting water, even though I'm driving for 8 hours, or skip eating healthy foods just because I'm traveling. But we don't have to do that. And when we recognize the pattern of the feeling that's causing that, like, oh, I want to be on time, or I want to make sure that I do all these things, we can take a deep breath and really come back to what's important to spirit and what's important to our well-being. Because when we fill our well-being and take care of our emotions, it's easier to respond rather than react around others. And it really helps to process shame or guilt and understand where some of those things are coming from. Grieving is natural. It's okay to cry tears of joy, tears of pain, tears of sadness. They're all important and they're all beautiful. And if we hold them in, it does create bags under your eyes. So even if you're looking for your own way to help a little bit with beauty, right, and how you feel in your day, letting the tears out is okay. All of this helps with decision fatigue. And I think Tina's shared with me at least. Do you want to share your way to help with decision fatigue?
Yeah, there's so I want to talk about two things here really quickly is um to the emotional cost of um all of this, whether it's you're holding on to fear or shame, like I said, you're afraid to have somebody help you for whatever reason. All of that is disrupting your sleep, is your inability to be productive the next day, to attend your family, to make good choices the next day. That self-care that we need to refocus on is really hard when you're in a lot of chaos. Okay. So one of the things that I like to focus on is, as an example, so I have closet clean out little challenges that I have. first thing I say is take out anything in your closet that still has tags on it. Okay. And I always get a couple of specific responses. Well, I spent money on that. I'll wear that someday. I somebody gave it to me. I feel badly. And the thing that to break that cycle is we have to say, this isn't serving me. I haven't worn it. I've already spent the money on it. The cost is already passed. Don't spend any more emotional time, grief, guilt, shame on it. You can, if you have the time and the wherewithal and the means, you can resell it. It has value. You can gift it to somebody who know will love it and use it. You can donate it. And in processing that and letting go of that fear and or shame or guilt, whatever is alleviating yourself of that, whatever that bad feeling is, and is replacing it with charity, with giving, with being, with letting go of whatever feeling that may be. While you're doing that in that closet example, you're reducing decision fatigue because you've eliminated this thing hanging in your closet for X amount of time that you're never going to use, or it doesn't fit your style, it doesn't fit your personality, it doesn't fit your lifestyle anymore. Quick example from my own use is when I moved from a very suburban, active life and I moved to the country. I can tell you I no longer needed 13 dresses. I have one. Okay. It's black. I can wear it with a sweater, a shawl, whatever. It reduces my decision fatigue because I have one dress. I can dress it up, dress it down. That suits my lifestyle now. And although I do speaking engagements and I'm active for other things, I wear black pants. I wear a shirt or a long sleeve shirt with my logo on it. And if I'm working, that is my uniform. And if I'm out and I'm with the horses, I'm in jeans. If I'm, doing a rotary thing, I might be a little more dressed up, but it's that one black dress, however I'm dressing it up. And it's just about making choices. Sometimes less is more. Um, and there's 100 great examples, but I'll stick with that one for this purpose. So reduce your decision fatigue, let go of things that aren't serving you, and the emotions will start to fade. You'll feel less guilt, less anxiety. Um, there's no reason to feel shame if you're letting go of something that's causing you some sort of pain.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think that's a great way because so the idea of giving the thing with the tag on it away, giving is receiving. So I'm so grateful you brought up the part about charity, and that makes us feel good, right? So if
Right?
there's some other use and we're able to work through the idea of, hey, if we haven't used it, there is a way to use that. And it ties a little bit back even to our own work, right? Of, hey, I value my time and the amount of decisions and the things that I do, but also, hey, where can I create value and where is that beneficial for me to be and how I spend my life too? So all of this ties into our energetic work. If we can work through the physical, the mental, the emotional, we're able to open up our energy to be used to its full extent and capability. This allows us to have more fulfillment in our vocation, our purpose, our reason for life, why we're here on this earth. And that's what brings us life. And if it brings us life, it's definitely worth doing more of because then we feel good, others feel good around us when we do that. And it also allows us to have things for a purpose. So a little black dress, right, can have such a good purpose rather than a little black dress and multiple from Tina's example. It also serves purpose to say, okay, my jeans are for this time, and I do something similarly. I have a certain number of yoga pants and they rotate through for when I'm using them. But when I want to feel good and go out, I'm not necessarily wearing my yoga pants because it's part of my vocation and my job. I want to feel good in a dress, a skirt, or jeans that fit just right, right? So knowing that my purpose between those, and that's part of my reason for having them both, rather than just having one gives that a purpose. And it sounds maybe a little bit odd, but on an energetic level, the item and the object, all the energy that went into creating it, that object feels its value too. The people who pulled the cotton or the people who transported the item to where we're at so we could actually purchase it, the money we use to purchase it, that gives value to that. And that energy is like, it continues along the process. And overall, we build better relationships. And this is the relationship with all the objects in our house. We love what we have, the objects in our cars, wherever we're at. It allows us to see the beauty in those, almost like when you see a flower bloom for the first time, you can see the joy and having that letter that comes in the mail. And when you keep it and when you want to keep it, or saying, hey, this is one that I can shred, and that shredding material is going to go to better use, whether it's compost or whether it's going to compost in the landfill, right? And that's important when we can have those better relationships that ultimately help us. Have you seen these types of results with any of your clients, Tina, where you've helped them out in the process of organizing and then, that light within them shines or their relationships expand?
Yeah, I have a really great example. I had it, and it's so third wheel. So I was working on a clean out in a house of a person who had been injured in their home, and we were working to get them back into their home. The property needed a great deal of work. And a neighbor, noticing the house was getting worked on, came and asked me who I was and what I did. And about a month later, I got a call from the neighbor's sister who said, hey, my brother said you were doing this for his neighbor. And I'm kind of in a life transition. My kids are out of college, they're moved away. And I really would like to downsize and then ask them what they want for their homes. So I met with her. She was very motivated. Um, and so we started working, started in her kitchen and her very busy pantry, and then went to other areas of the house. And then her one of her daughters bought a house, and she brought me in before she bought the house and said, "Can you help us? This is a kind of a small space. It's a tiny house. How can we take what I've learned and help my daughter, who's a teacher, who's very busy, very active lifestyle?" And then now her second daughter has bought her house. And again, she's out of state, but we do video. She sent me a video. I sent her some stuff back. We talk back and forth. This is now a, you know, a, a man, his sister, and now his nieces all have benefited just because he saw I was making a difference in an elderly neighbor's life. And this is expanding. She is like my biggest advocate. I get calls, and it's like, oh, so and so said you did a great job with her house and her and the girls. And it's it's that energy that I spent being open to dialogue with a neighbor of a client, which sometimes can be difficult in my work because of confidentiality. This neighbor had been kind of helping him out, and looking after the animals, and um, I didn't, I didn't break any confidentiality or anything. I just said, this is what I'm doing. It's like, oh, and he talked to his sister and so on and so on. So that's the purpose that I have, and that energy came back to me from sharing, and I've made all these other lives better. And that experience to me is what's important. I'm fulfilling my purpose and I'm passing it on, and then that experience is fulfilling more people's lives. And that's really this to me, that's the circle of it. And that's the reason that I do it is I'm here to help others make their lives better.
I think that's awesome. It's the same when we think about how we feel when we get done at the end of a yoga class or at the end of a meditation, no matter what that is. At the end of a coaching session, we feel and too. And the good thing is we can share that with others. And that helps us, right, with our business, but it also helps the people in our lives, especially if we're sharing something as simple as, take that deep breath before reacting or responding. It allows the nervous system to calm a little bit too. And so that helps with our organizing and in that life, but also in our day-to-day life to have the energy to talk to the neighbor, have the energy to go through that. So we can start to internalize the processes as well, which is really, really cool. So we are going to talk about some key takeaways with some tips about things to do. We do have, some of these can take you 5 minutes, some of them can take you a little bit longer, but recognizing that they are things that can be done. And we're going to encourage you to pick one item out of this list or at least one item to go do to make tomorrow easier because then that practice becomes a habit and it also prevents that cycle of leading to the chaos and the so picking one item to make tomorrow easier. Sometimes this can be clearing a counter. Maybe you choose the bathroom, maybe you choose the kitchen, whatever that is, clearing the sink, maybe it's your desk, whatever that is. Forgiving someone is another one. When we go through that practice energetically, wishing them the best, wishing them well, and sending good energy to them, that allows us to feel better too. It actually gives us freedom to do that, no matter how we think about that person or, it allows us to release the feelings as we go through of that.
I like the let go of one physical thing a day. If it still has the tag on it or it's in the return period, go ahead and return it without guilt or shame. I like to keep a bag by my door on the way to the garage. And I've noticed just recently, I pay more attention to things I have duplicates of. I don't spend as much time going through each cabinet. I had gotten a mug. My girlfriend sent me a mug. She's, working on a new project. And I'm like, it's really cute. And I thanked her for it, but it's not a size that I will use. It's very pretty. So I can choose to gift that to somebody, but that means holding on to it and deciding who to give it to. Instead, it went in the box to be donated. And I don't feel bad about that. She gifted it to me, but it's not in my useful, and I'm not gonna spend any negative energy on it. I'm going to bless it onto somebody else and hope that somebody enjoys it as much as she meant for it to be.
The beauty of receiving the gift is still there and that is too. That's
Absolutely.
not to feel bad.
And
And
that's also another like 5 minute thing. I sent her a thank you note. You can text, you can email, or you can write it. People love handwritten notes. I just said thank you for sending me your trial items. They were super cute. Really appreciated the graphic. Um, and and then I thanked her. She gets she gets the response, and everybody's getting something positive out of it.
and that's beautiful. Another good way to do our process and organize is having an impulse list. So we might feel like we want something. And if we put it on a list and we say, hey, I'm going to wait 30 days, then we can decide if we actually still need it. It's very similar to being like, oh, I'd love to eat some chocolate or I'd love to eat some chips when it may not be lunchtime. And we can think about that. But when we do it with our objects, we can save money and we can also, only purchase the things that we really do need and want. And that allows it to serve us. We can also think about this for things that we're keeping. If we haven't used it for a period of time, is it worth keeping or is it worth gifting that to someone to use or donating it where it will get used more fully?
So there is a lot in the clutter, chaos, anxiety, shutdown motto in that framework. There is a lot of waste. So one of the things that I like to do, and I really encourage people to do, especially when they're starting out, especially if you have kids, you have your 5 or 6 recipes that you go to. Keep a list on the fridge of everything when you're almost out, when you use the last stick of butter, when you get down to the last of the raisins, when you've got, your sugar or your tea or whatever is running low. And shop once a week and only once a week. If you need to pick up milk or something, here and there, a lot of times, you have to go a little less than a week. But by meal planning, knowing what your kids will eat or what you're comfortable with, and keeping that refrigerator list, you're less impulse spending, you're wasting less food, and you're saving more money. This is when you do that again, it reduces decision fatigue because, Taco Tuesday, Meatless Monday, what used to be when I was a kid, showing my age, Prince Spaghetti Day. Um, all of these things, if you have comfort foods or regular foods that your kids will eat, go ahead and start using that menu plan or meal plan for the week. But give yourself one day where you're just going to do leftovers or cook on a Sunday and make 4 servings and freeze two. Um, there's lots of things you can do to reduce the decision fatigue, reduce costs, and prepare yourself for those days when you just don't feel like cooking or you don't have the time or your schedule's too hectic. Reducing that decision fatigue saves you time, energy, and money.
That's wonderful. I'm going to let you talk about the last one too, because this is
Uh,
the name you've given this, which I think is amazing, but really, really helpful.
okay, so this is what I call your bug out bag. So there's been a lot of natural disasters, California wildfires, and even the wildfires in Canada recently. Um, Brought up something that I learned years ago. And it's called your bug out bag. So let's say that you know that you have to leave your home, and in your home are your cars, your children, all of your medications, whatever you need, and you can only take 3 things with you. Now you have a house full of things and memories. What are you going to bring? And I found that for the most part, people will bring their computer because they have a lot of stuff on their computer. So I say, okay, let's forget your computer. Your computer's in your bag with your essentials. What 3 things in your home would you bring if you knew that when you came back, your home could be gone? What's most important to you? And some of that is saying, wow, I never had that. I never done that process before. Okay. And it took a situation like that for me to say, wow, I have a lot of life experiences and I do have some trinkets, not a lot, but all of those things now are in a little curio cabinet. Okay. And that I would probably empty. And the rest of it I wouldn't worry about because those things are all tied to my experiences and my memories. It will be different for everybody. For somebody, it might be photo albums. Somebody, it might be a particular collection. That's fine, but you only get 3 things, and it's not 3 categories. It's 3 things. So it's important to know that your your things serve you. You can't let them own you, and you can't worry so much about them that you wouldn't be able to decide. So that's just something that I like to go through with my clients when they're in a good place for that.
Yeah, it's such a good thing. And I think this is one that even given me a lot of reminders as we were preparing to share this with everyone about, okay, what's really important. And same with what's in my car. I thought a little bit about that. Or, what are the things that I want to have ready and easy to get to too.
Mhm.
So we so appreciate your time today, and you're welcome to send us questions, comments, anything you'd like. Feel free to share on the platform we have here that we're sharing this on, or you're welcome to email us. We'd love to hear from you and hear what you thought, what questions you have, or how we might be able to help some others.
Thank you so much for joining us in this presentation, and have a happy, healthy, organized day.